Hello, guys. How you doing? This is Coach Keyon Corniff, also known as Mr. Finance, your favorite financial educator and business coach. And today I'm here to talk to you about the financial concepts that is using to be empowering families. For many of you that don't know who HGI is, so HGI, we are a financial marketing firm. And what we do is that we provide financial education, we provide financial planning, and we also provide financial services. With that, the reason why we're doing this is to make sure that every family learn the importance of why they need to learn how to create wealth. Because when we look around in today's society, I think it's very clear to realize that many families are concerned about four things. And these four things may relate to you. And one of the four things is number one, how do I make more money? Number two, where do I save my money? Number three, how do I grow my money? And number four, why do I need to protect my money? When you think about these concepts, I want you to picture these things. How do I get from A to Z? And in today's conversation, we're going to show you how is it that we're in a position to empower you and what is that we're going to do to make that happen. So with this moment, I would love for you to take really good notes. And if you have any questions, save them to the end because we're going to make sure that we have a Q&A with them. All right. So here we go. Let's get started. Let's talk about what is that HGI is doing and how is that we're going to help families to keep winning the money game. Now, the first thing is that we do is that we teach families how to take control of their money. Now, in order for you to take control of your money, you got to figure out what are some of the things that I need to do right away to take back control. And then you got to ask yourself, who has control? Is it the government? Is it your banker? Is it your financial advisor? You got to have control of your money because you can't depend on anyone but yourself. So the first thing you got to do is that you got to learn how to pay yourself first. You got to ask yourself, how much money am I putting aside each time I get a paycheck? Do you know that exact amount? Until you know the exact amount, how is it that you know that you're paying yourself enough? In today's society, we were taught how to treat on ourselves, right? So which they convince us to spend our money. The other thing you got to learn if you want to take control of your money is how to earn additional income. You got to earn additional income. Did you know that having one source of income is too close to having none? And if you have multiple streams of income, you could create a space where, God forbid, one stop, the other one keeps flowing and coming. So you got to create multiple streams of income and make sure that the cash flow never stop going. Also, you got to adjust your lifestyle. It is very important to create a disciplined budgeting because when it comes to your budget, here's something you got to ask yourself. Do you know how much you should be saving? And do you know how much you should be spending? And until you know those exact amount, tracking spending ain't budgeted. And that's why we got to adjust our lifestyle and establish a strong budgeting plan. Also, you got to avoid credit traps. In today's societies, we use a lot of plastic money as if it's our money. I like to tell you that your credit card is an overpriced loan. Okay, it's a loan that is given to you, and it's your responsibility to use it properly, unless you will be trapped. And guess what's going to happen to you? Now you're now given to the debt game, right? But we got to learn how to use credit to obtain assets and not liabilities. So we got to change our thinking. Change. You got to change our thinking. I want you to think about this. What does it look like to change your thinking when it comes to your finances? What are some of the traditional things that you were taught from your grandparents, your parents, that is not working in today's society or have evolved over time? Money keeps evolving, which requires you to keep learning, right? And we got to learn the difference about money and currency. Very, very important. So these are things that we want to teach you how to take control of your money and continue empowering you in such favor. Now, 6 steps to financial security. Let's talk about the classes that we're going to give you access to in our program. In our program, we're going to teach you first how to increase your cash flow. We're going to teach you the importance on how to manage the money that you earned and also the expenses that you have. You got to know the difference between your needs and your wants. And these are things you're going to learn here. Also, when it comes to managing your debt, we will show you how to manage your debt. So that way you can learn how to consolidate it and you can even strive to eliminate it. But one of the things I want to tell you right out the gate, I want you to write this down and never forget this. Don't go broke trying to be debt free. Don't do it. Too many times we have obtained that type of goal and we have now put ourselves in more debt trying to be debt free. So we got to pay down our debts gradually and build up our credit as we do so. So pay down your debt and build up your credit at a budget rate. Also, you got to establish an emergency fund. You're going to learn how to establish an emergency fund, how to save 3 to 6 months of your income, and where do you put it? Because 9 out of 10 times, many of you keep your emergency fund on your credit cards, and it's not an emergency fund. Write that down. Your credit card is not my emergency funds. All right. Also, put together proper protection. You will learn the importance of how to put together proper protection for you and your family. We will teach you the fundamentals of what that look like, so that way you could protect your family. Remember, you are an asset. You got to write that down. You are your greatest asset to your family, your business, and anything that you're doing. You are the asset, so which means that you need to be protected at all time. Also, you got to learn how to build wealth. It is very important. Many of us strive to build wealth, but you got to build wealth that's going to outpace inflation. Do you currently know where inflation is today? Do you know how inflation is affecting your money in today's day? You got to learn how to build wealth that's going to outpace inflation and put yourself in a very, very position to keep winning. And last but not least, you will also learn how to preserve your wealth here. All right. Because it's so crucial for us to learn how to make sure that, hey, you got to learn how to reduce the taxation on your assets when you're passing it on, and also how to build a legacy. Right. So the question I want you to ask yourself, and you should write this down and ask yourself as you're listening to this, you should ask yourself, am I going to become a memory or am I going to become a legacy when I pass away? And that's up to how you go about learning and implementing the things that you do. So what we do in our program, there's 3 things we're going to do in our classes. I want you to think about this. We're going to give you information. We're also going to give you understanding, which then you will obtain clarity. It's fair to say that when you have clarity, you have confidence, and that confidence will give you the power to implement. Many of us are slow to implement financial concepts and things because why? No one never gave us the clarity, so we never gained the confidence. So that's why we're slow to implement. We want to change that for you going forward. Now, also, you got to realize that when you're going to build your financial foundation, you got to know how to prioritize the things that's important to you. So starting from the bottom and working your way up, right? It's almost like what Drake said, right? Starting from the bottom, now we're here. But where is here? Here it needs to look like this when it comes to your finances. First thing we got to do is go on defense, right? We got to go on defense, and we got to be in defensive planning. That's when we put together protection. What are the things that you must protect? Number one, you got to protect what you earned. Number two, you got to protect what you owe. And number three, you got to protect, what you own. And number four, those you love. Those are the 4 things that you must protect, and they're very important to you. Also, you got to get on the offensive side now, right? You got to become very on the offense. Offense planning, which is planning for what? Major purchases. That could be a home. That could be a car. That could be a business, right? How about emergencies? These things could happen. What if the boiler breaks in your house? What if your car needs a new engine? Right? How about college education for our children to seek a higher education? And most importantly, your retirement. Your retirement is so important to plan for. And you got to ask yourself, is retirement an age or is it a number? Right? You got to know which one is important. And then you got to become very aggressive on your planning. You got to be aggressive. What are things like this? Prioritizing your goals, right? You got to diversify and reduce the risk. You got to maximize and qualify the plan's contributions and overpower inflation. We got to get to a place where we become very aggressive. And as you climb up that ladder, you will now become progressive. You got to have progressive planning. And that's where you could pass along your assets. And this is where we say, do you want to be a memory or you want to be a legacy? Because estate planning is so important. And you got to know how to pass on your wealth without taking it away from your family. So your needs all depends on your potential financial security and also the potential financial success. These are the 2 things that we want to make happen for you and your family as we grow in this firm and you learn within our program. Now, when you think about the wealth that you're going to create, you got to create a wealth flow formula. Now, the wealth flow formula will tell you how to plan for your needs as they change over time. And this is what I mean by this. Many years ago, my mentor asked me a question. He said to me, and he said, Keyon, what are the 2 most important events in your life? At this moment, I looked at him and I said, hey, having kids and getting married. He looked at me and he shook his head. He said, you're right, but those are not those 2 things. He said the 2 most important things in your life that you must plan for and you should plan for is if you die too soon and if you live too long. And when I heard that in my early 20s, it changed my life. One of the concepts that you must understand is that you got to realize that in the event if you die too soon, you got to have proper protection. And in the event if you live too long, you got to have proper protection, right? So you got to plan for those two things. And here's something that we teach families. You got to own the term to protect your dime. Okay, so write that down. Term is used to protect your dime. What are your dime? Your dime is your debts, your income, your mortgage, and educational planning for your children. And that's the reason why when you own term in your earlier years, it's very affordable. It doesn't cost a lot, and you can get a lot more coverage to protect your family. So that's why if you have young children, high debts, and a house and a mortgage, a loss of your income would be very devastating to your family in the event if you pass too soon. So in that same token, yes, you own term to protect your dime and you start saving the difference inside of a permanent policy. So in the event if you live too long now, you got to think about the fact that, hey, in your later years to come, you're going to need protection against living too long and income taxes. So that's why we introduce people about an IUL. Now, many of you may ask, why is an IUL is such a main topic? Well, it's the evolution of life insurance. Write this down. How does life insurance have evolved? Life insurance started from a term insurance, then it became a whole life, then from a whole life to a universal, and from a universal to a VUL, which is called a variable universal life insurance. And that's evolved to now an IUL. Now, if you like to learn why that is so, write that down and let that be one of the questions that you ask me as well. Now, when it comes to tomorrow, you're planning for those later years to come. You got to realize that at this moment, your kids are grown. Your debts will be lowered, your mortgage will be paid, and at this moment in retirement, you need to create a vehicle that's going to give you tax-free lifetime income. Because here's something I want you to remember, something my mentor taught me years ago, stuck with me forever. He said that if you're in retirement, if you're paying taxes in the years of your retirement was never set up in your best interest. And you then got to ask yourself, whose interest is it for you to pay taxes at a time when you're no longer working? And I'm guaranteed that interest wasn't yours. So that's why it's so crucial for us to learn how to create tax advantages in our retirement years to come. Because here's something you got to ask yourself. Can you predict what taxes will be like in the future? And if you can't predict it, then why would you put yourself in a position to play it later? And that's why we want to show you how to avoid that going forward. Now, another thing you're going to be learning in our firm, like we talked about, buy term and put the rest in perm, right? And that concept is such a simple concept because here's the thing. When you look at the fact that you're going to need a high face amount, which is a term coverage during your early years, right? You're going to look in a vehicle that can give you tax-free cash value accumulation. So when you look at the accelerated living benefits as well, on both the term and the IUL, this means that God forbid if you was to get any chronic, critical, or terminal illnesses, you want to make sure that your life insurance can pay out to you while you're alive. All right, to help offset some of those costs and expenses that you may encounter. So life insurance, you don't have to die to use, is what we educate you about and empower you on the information that you need to use. So income tax-free withdrawals and loans at any age. So yes, you could have a lot of protection in your early 20 to 30 years. So that way the things that matter to you is always protected. Once again, God forbid something was to ever happen to you. You do not want your debts to become someone else's burden. You don't want your income to disappear for the next 15 to 20 years. And you want to make sure that the mortgage is paid off so no one going homeless and your kids will still acquire a higher education without going in debt to achieve it. And that's why it's so crucial to have proper protection, guys. You're going to learn even more about that in the program. So when it comes to life insurance, and you got to understand that life insurance and if you're insurable, one of the greatest things that we want to empower you to know is that don't wait. Don't be one of those people that said, I'm young, I don't need it right now. It would never happen to me. I'm here to tell you as a witness that I've had people that have passed away in their as early as my lowest client, and it just breaks my heart when I talk about this. He was not even 18 years old. He passed away playing basketball. And just like that, his mother called me and tell me that her son died. And I want to tell you right now that it is very crucial to never think that you are not in a position to do this. It's very affordable. It's very affordable to obtain protection. So why you need to think about protection? And here's some things that I want you to look at. When you look at the simple need, you got to think about what is your dime, right? What is your dime? How much debt do you currently have, right? What is the income, right? What is your income means to your family and your loved ones? What about the mortgage? Or even if you don't have a mortgage, what about if you're rented, right? Do you want your family to be continue renting and struggling, even if God forbid something was to happen to you? How about educational planning for your children? Look at the fact that on an average, they said the average person carries around about $75,000 in debt. They said the average income for someone, as far as a 15-year replacement for someone earning $50,000, about a $750,000. What about a mortgage? They said the average person owe about $275,000 on their mortgage. And they said the average educational planning for two children, that wants to go to a 4-year school is roughly around $480,000 for a $60,000 tuition. So you got to ask yourself, do you currently have $1.5 million plus right now in protection for you and your family? And if you don't, we need to help you to accomplish that and make it very affordable. Remember this, life insurance is two things, guys. I want you to write this down. Life insurance is two things. Life insurance needs to be suitable and it needs to be affordable. And we want to make sure that when it comes to life insurance planning, that's what it's going to be for you and your family. So when you think about this, are you insurable? Are you insurable at this moment? Because when you think about heart disease, you got to think about the facts that, hey, in the US, did you know that someone has a heart attack every 40 seconds? Did you know that heart disease is the leading cause of death for both men and women? And more than half of the deaths due to heart disease in 2015 were in men? Did you know about 630,000 Americans die from heart disease each year? Did you also know that heart disease is the leading cause of death for people in most ethnicity group in the United States of America? So that's why you got to always ask yourself, are you insurable? Because you got to always make sure you have proper protection in place. And we want to make sure that you and your family is always protected. So here's the thing. Here's a concept that I want you to remember. Now, do you own a credit card? Do you have any debts? What if you have a bank account? Do you have a car note? Do you have a mortgage? If you have any of these things, I'm pretty sure you have something called interest attached to it. That could be in a positive way or that could be in a negative way. But if you don't learn the rule of 72, you will never know how these things are impacting you. Always remember the rule of 72. This was the concept that made me decide to become a financial educator, by the way. Now, let me show you how simple this concept is. The concept says if you take 72 and you divide it by the interest that you're receiving on any one of those vehicles, the equal will tell you the number of years that money will take to double for you or against you. So let me just give you a simple example. Imagine you put your money in the bank and the bank is giving you 1%. 72 divided by 1, that equals 72. That tells you that your money in the bank would take 72 years for it to double for you. But what if you had a credit card that was giving you 12% interest? Now, we know that's not true, but let's just hypothetically say that you did have a credit card that give you 12% in interest. Imagine that you ran up the bill at 29 years old and you had a $10,000 debt. Did you know that if you did not pay that and by the age of 65, that $10,000 debt would have compounded against you and grew to $640,000 if you didn't pay a dime on it? That's how interest could also work against you. It's very crucial for us to understand how interest could work. And you always want to remember the rule of 72. These are things you're going to learn in our program as well. So ultimately, when does 50% cost you 100%? And you got to always learn the difference between, a lot of people always talk about dollar cost averaging. And they always refer this to when you invest in your money. Now, most people will tell you this common rule for investment, right? You're gonna learn a lot more about this, but I want to just give it simple to you. Always buy low and always sell high. All right? Because in today's society, many of us do the opposite. We always buy when it's high and then we sell it when it's low. Don't be an emotional investor. We're going to teach you how to really understand how investment works. You're going to learn your risk tolerance and you're going to learn your tax tolerance. And when it comes to your risk tolerance, it's important for you to learn what is an aggressive investment, a moderate growth, a moderate, and then a conservative. You're going to learn the difference between those four things, and it's going to make you a better investor. Also, when it comes down to the power of index accounts, it is so crucial for us to understand how to put our money in vehicles that guarantee us to never lose. Now, this is an example. It's just showing you how if you invested $100,000 in 1997, and if you had your money in a variable account versus having it in an index account. Now, the red line that you see on this graph is a representation of what is known as a variable. Variable means that your money is tied up in the stock market. So if the stock market goes up, you make money. When the stock market goes down, you lose money, which means that it is a roller coaster ride. I call it the bipolar money. You look at it this morning, you're happy. You look at it in the evening, you're sad. You look at it before you go to bed, you might be happy again. You just don't know. It's unpredictable. But when it comes to an index means that my money is not in the stock market, but it gets credited by the stock market's performance, which means that when the market goes up, you have the potential to still earn money. But when the stock market goes down, they guarantee you to never lose a dime. So you will never lose money, and that is guaranteed. That's something that variables can't give you. You're going to learn about that in our program to definitely see which plan is better for you and your family. Also, another thing that you're going to be learning, and it's very, very important, very, very important. I want you to look at this real quick and take a second. Look at the high cost of waiting. Imagine you just saw this overview today, and you're asking yourself, you know what? Sounds great. You know what? I'll wait. Now, let me show you the cost. How much does this cost for you to wait and not take action today? It's going to cost you this example. Imagine you're 25 years old when we had this conversation. And I said, hey, let me teach you where to put $300 every month. It's $3,600 a year. Let me teach you where to save that money. And I showed you every plan in place to make it work for you and your family. And you said, hey, man, I'm not interested. But a friend next to you heard the same message and said, you know what, Coach Keyon, I want to work with you right now. Let's get it started. Now, we put your friend in this vehicle. They were able to get around 8%, right, in a tax-deferred account. And let's say that we put this in the account, and now they're earning 8% on their $3,600. Did you know that in the first 7 years of them saving, all they would have contributed was $25,200 inside of this vehicle? Now they no longer have to contribute in it. And now at 48 years old, they're ready to retire, or they want to buy a house, or they want to do something big. They now have $128,000+ inside of this vehicle for only contributing for the first 7 years, earning 8%. But what if you're now later on, you saw how things was going for them in the first 7 years? You're like, man, Coach Keyon, I want to get started with you now. I'm ready to do this, right? Now, here's what's going to require of you. Now, you have to put in the same $300 that's earning 8% on it, which is $3,600 you're saving every year. But the difference is that you don't save for the first 7 years. You will now have to save for the 17 years just to even come close or just a little bit more than the previous person. So you got to ask yourself, at 48, saving 17 years, contributing $61,200, earning 8% on that will only give you about $131,000+ at 48. Now look at how much more. You had to put in more than twice the amount than option A. That's why you don't want to wait, because they said, you ever hear the saying, time is money? Now here's a great example of that. And you don't want to wait. You want to take actions now. And that's what we encourage you to do. Do not wait. So ultimately, here's my thing. It's good to make money, right? It's great to save it. It's even more better to grow it and protect it. But you got to ask yourself, how's my money going to be taxed when I need it? How my money's going to be taxed? And there's 3 ways your money get taxed, and it's important for you to learn them. Your money get taxed now, which means that it's taxable. Your money get taxed later, which means it gets tax deferred. And your money get taxed never, which means that it gets a lot of tax advantages. We're talking about on distribution. It is so crucial for you to learn how your money is going to be taxed and how it can affect you. And a lot of things that people don't know is that life insurance is probably one of the best kept secret when it comes to receiving a lot of tax advantage in it. And that's why I want to teach you how the difference, and these are some of the things you're going to learn in the program and how they work. So ultimately, here's my thing. When it comes to the taxes, just to break it down, how does tax deferred work? How does tax advantage work? It's very simple. When you put your money in a 401k and an IRA, that's called tax deferred, which means that you pay zero taxes when you're distributing the money, when you're depositing it, right? So when you're saving your money and you're making those contributions in your 401ks, your IRAs, you pay no taxes on that. But here's the catch 22. Now, when you're ready to take your money, you're going to be taxed as ordinary income on every withdrawals going forward. Every withdrawal. After 59 and a half, you will be paying taxes on every withdrawal going forward. The difference with tax advantages, like in things like life insurance and Roth IRAs, is that the tax deferred is on the growth, which means that you're putting in after tax deposit, which means that you put your money in contribution now, you pay taxes today. You pay your taxes right now. But the great thing about it is that when you need your money in the years to come, zero federal taxes on qualified distributions. You pay no taxes on the gains and you pay no taxes on distribution. That's what tax advantage should look like in your retirement years to come. And it's so crucial for us to set that up. You're going to learn how to do that for you and your family as well. So here's the thing. Own life insurance with living benefits. Write that down. Own life insurance with living benefits, because those living benefits is going to be your best interest to have when you own life insurance. See, we're most likely to get sick before we die, and a chronic, critical, or terminal illnesses can pretty much devastate your retirement savings in the years to come. That's why beyond 100 years, did you know that Medicare pays $0 for long-term care services if you go beyond 100 days? So you got to think about where's the extra funds going to come from to take care of you. And the annual median cost for long-term care, if you want to be in a nursing home in a private room, is about $102,000+. If you wanted to get assisted living, that's going to be $48,000+. So think about this. How long would $1 million last, even if you had it in your 401k? God forbid if you got chronic, critical, or terminally ill. So we're going to show you how to put together proper protection in place for that. So here's the thing I want to ask yourself. They always say that there's always reasons not to invest. And that's very true. Many of them you can see for all the different examples here. We had things like the Depression in 1934, or the Cuba Missile Crisis in 1962, or even in very 2020, the coronavirus, right? So you got to ask yourself, what is your reasons? What are your reasons not to invest? And we want to help you to overcome those, right? So that way you can really start getting in the game. So ultimately, my question to you is this. Where do you see yourself as far as going forward, and how can we empower you? Because if you was to ask me, what would I suggest you to do? I would suggest you to become a student. Become a student with us. Learn why you need to become a client. Understand the opportunity and become a referral source to us. And then, yes, if you like to learn how you could earn additional income on a part-time basis where it wouldn't conflict your current schedule, then let's talk about the opportunity to where I could show you how to build a brokerage in a multi-trillion-dollar industry that is backed by a multi-billion-dollar company with an opportunity that could make you a multi-millions. All right? But first off, let me ask you this. Are you even open to learning about all the above? And that's where it should start. So I hope this gave you enough information to talk about what is the next step. And if you have any questions after this, please text us at 321-312-0130, and someone will get back to you. Once again, you can text us at 321-312-0130, and someone will get back to you immediately and talk about what are the next steps. Until next time, my name is Coach Keyon Corneth, also known as Mr. Finance, your favorite financial educator and business coach. And I just want to encourage and tell you that you are one decision away from changing your future for the better. So always remember, the choice is always yours. Until next time, keep winning.